and welcome. Today is Thursday, February 27th. We are in the Berlin room at Olentangy Administrative Offices, and we will call to order our Board of Education meeting. Mrs. Hatfield, please call the roll.
Mr. King?
Nope. Oh, he's not here.
Yeah. Mr. O'Brien?
Here.
Mrs. Patrick?
Here.
Mrs. Wagner-Fiesel?
Here.
And Dr. Weiss?
Here.
Thank you.
Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll now entertain a motion to approve the agenda. So moved. A second? Second. Thank you, Dr.
Mrs. Wagner-Fiesel?
Yes.
Dr. Weiss?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
And Mrs. Patrick?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, I am pleased that the Berlin High School Theater Program is joining us tonight for a presentation. Please welcome Erin Gibbons, the theater instructor. And she's brought some students with her.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us. We're very excited to be here. I've brought 6 of our students from our production of Cinderella this past weekend. It went so well, so we were very excited that you invited us here, and they are ready to speak a little bit to you about the benefits of theater and their experience with the production, and then we have a treat for you after they finish.
All right.
Hello, I'm Sydney Webb. I'm a junior. I've been doing music since about 3rd grade, and I started theater last year, and I played the role of Cinderella in our past production.
Hi all, I'm Emily Randall. I'm a senior. I started theater seriously last year, and I played the fairy godmother, and theater has helped me develop who I am today, and has helped me harness who I want to be for life.
Hi, my name is Amelia Menino. Music has been a really big part of my life. I've been in choir for about 10 years now, and I really started theater about 5 years ago, and I'm a senior at Olentangy, Berlin.
Hi, my name is Grace. I just played Cinderella in our school production. I just started theater last year when Berlin opened, but I've been doing choir since before I could talk. Well, I've been singing since before I could talk. Nothing brings me more joy than performing. It's the most fulfilling thing I can do.
Hi, I'm Andrew Dahlke, and I've been part of the performing arts since 3rd grade, and I've been doing theater since 6th grade. And I just joined technical theater, I think 3 years ago now, and I just started pursuing it more this year. What I've been doing is set designing, which is just designing the set, essentially. And really, it's been one of the greatest experiences. I now want to pursue that for like the rest of my life. And just some of the work that we put into it, like I put in hours till like 9 o'clock at night at school, constantly building, constantly designing, and all of my crew does it with me. And some of the benefits that come with that is just team building skills, critical thinking by just like if there's a problem, we fix it right away, and just building a community and a bond with each other. It's really the greatest opportunity I've ever had.
Hi, I'm Ian Paler. So this is actually my first show that I have been in my life. Yeah. I mean, if you count church plays when I was like 6, but I don't. I was actually a notorious bedroom singer for majority of my life as well. But I had the opportunity because of these wonderful directors behind me who had heard me sing before and had been pushing me and helping me, who asked me to come out for the play, and I was like, yeah, why not? Well, I didn't say that. I said no a lot, actually. They were just really persistent, and honestly, it was probably one of the best experiences of my life, and the highlight of my high school career for sure. Basically, everything I learned from this play, like how to build with people, how to build new relationships, how to deal with living at the school. Like seriously, like you go home to sleep and that is it. But it's okay because you are having the time of your life when you get to totally embody this role of someone else you totally forget about everything that's going on, all these worries that you have outside of like the stage, and like everything else just becomes irrelevant. It's all just you and the stage, and you can do like, you know, what you have to do, and you can be yourself, and you can express yourself, and you can be friends with a lot of people and make these connections that last for life. Like, they are seriously so meaningful, and I would not have it any other way if I had a choice. I'm so thankful that they had kept pushing me to do the show, because if they hadn't, I don't think I would be where I am today and be wanting to do this for basically the rest of my life. But yeah.
Are we open for questions? Absolutely. Are all of you in choir?
Yes.
Please do or not. No.
No, okay.
Four out of six, it ain't bad, though.
But if we ever needed any help, Mr. S was always there.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I came in for rehearsal time to help with breathing techniques and tone. And he would
Oh.
And I did not have the range for some of these songs when I actually started going to rehearsals, and he had actually expanded my range over 2 months to where I could actually hit notes that I wasn't able to hit originally.
I second that.
So how many hours do you think you put in preparation of the show?
I don't know. 2 months after
Need a
school.
calculator.
Or I have no clue. A lot of time.
That 4-day weekend that we had about 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
I spent over a total of 24 hours at the school working on set and choreography, just doing all the blocking and stuff for the show. Like, it's a lot of time.
Every Saturday for a long time.
Yeah.
Saturday,
Just
every
dance.
day
That's
after
just
school.
dance specific. Then before that, it was vocals every day after school. And then you get to your tech week, which is absolute madness. That's especially where we learn a lot of our critical thinking skills with technique. That's when you're doing full run-throughs. You're off book, and if you mess up, then you stand there until you fix it.
Or you hope somebody covers for
Or-
it.
Yeah.
Covered for me.
So I have one question for you. My mother was a theater, we had a dance school, so I grew up in a dance school. So I had that dance family, and we would work all year towards our production, and then the production's over, and your family kind of gets away from each other. Are you guys coping okay this week?
So sad.
Are you?
It's pretty tough.
But a lot of us are in choir. We still have that whole community. That's what's so amazing. Is I had done choir for so long, and I'd never done theater. And then I opened that doorway of doing both, and oh my, I would never have it any other way. I regret not doing it before. I can especially say that the theater program at Berlin High School is far beyond anything I would have been able to find anywhere else.
It's the biggest, closest knit community I've ever found in my high school.
It's people you walk by in the hallways 2 months before. You would have never said hi, you never knew their name. And then 2 months later, you
I
can't,
literally, we had 3 walk together, never spoken to him.
can't imagine
And then
passing them in
we
the hallway
acted
and not
together.
saying their name.
So it sounds like you attribute your social,
Yeah.
you know,
We
Absolutely.
do. And they
life
also,
to your theater.
We do. We also have this really nice thing called circle after the end of a performance, and it's where they understand that we have all these feelings and emotions: sadness, happiness, relief. So they all understand that. So we all come together after school one day. We had it Monday, and we all sit in the circle, and we all share our stories of our happy times, maybe things that were really kind of like, oh no, we need to change that for next time.
Right.
But it's a lot of like happy tears, crying, and expressing our emotions, and it's a lot of closure that really helps bring us even more closer together and ready for the next.
Well, you're
step.
forever bonded by your
Yeah,
production.
Well, I'll tell you, my husband went to Olentangy when it was Shanahan, and he was a thespian, and he's now the boys basketball coach at Olentangy. But his classmates who were in the plays with him, because they could be in plays starting in 8th grade, since they were all in one school, so he got to start in 8th grade. They still talk about, the plays that they did, and they did West Side Story and Music Man, West Side Story, Music Man, and I forget the other one that he was in there, but John Anthony, who is a singer who sings around town a lot, he was another one who was in the plays with my husband and is an Olentangy grad. But I mean, these guys are 53 years old, and they still laugh about the times that they had, being in the place. But back then, Olentangy didn't have a stage. There was no stage at Shannon. Well, there was a little stage in one of the gyms. And so they performed, and I don't want to disparage anyone, but at the juvenile detention center that was across the road on Home Road. So if you go over the Home Road Bridge.
It's not there anymore.
Yeah, it's not there anymore. They've torn it down, but it was all girls. And so, Grease was the other one. So when they did Grease and West Side Story, their dress rehearsal was for the girls who were committed there. and they would jeer and laugh. But that's a memory that they have still to this day. So you guys with your great theater, it's a whole nother world because you have such a nice theater in all of our schools. But it's something that you will remember because my husband still remembers.
So were any of you involved with the philanthropy work for the ball gowns? Like I know that your school's doing, is it called the Fairy Godmother's Ball? Is that I don't know what it's called.
The Fairy Godmothers is actually an organization.
Okay.
And they're located in more downtown Columbus.
Mhm.
They collect ball gowns or just gowns and accessories for girls who can't go to prom and homecoming, can't afford it. And I'm lucky enough, I'm an officer for our service club, so that's how we partnered it up. And so we emailed them and we were like, we would love to partner with you. And it fits very well with the show we're currently doing. And they were like, okay, here's all the information you need, here's all your stuff. And it was surprisingly simple. We just put it out to our school and people were more than happy. They were like, oh, I have 3 daughters. I have like 12 dresses here, take them. And so we collected about 37 dresses and accessories, and we just shipped those off to the organization today. And yeah, so that was really fun, and it was so rewarding because the lady who came to pick them up today couldn't express her gratitude enough and said, like, this is actually so rare to get so many dresses so fast. Thank you so much, and it was really rewarding.
Oh, that's great.
Yay. Well, thank you for coming and sharing with us tonight.
Yes, we appreciate you dressing up too. Girls, I know. Yeah. Anybody else have anything? Thank you.
You good?
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, Sydney said that she's an officer for Service Club, and I think that's one of the coolest things about our program is how well-rounded our kids are.
Oh, yeah.
We have athletes, we have band musicians, we have officers for student council, and we, as directors, are committed to making sure that our kids can do everything that they are passionate about, and I think that's one of the big things that's been bringing our community together is how inclusive we made it, or tried to make it, so.
I mean, I've seriously talked to so many people that I never thought, like Sydney said earlier, never thought I'd talk to ever. Also, I've still been able to keep my job through being the lead in the show. They were so flexible with what we were able to do. Also, every open period, any chance Mr. S had, he was open to helping anybody who wanted to go in and sing, work on things. So it's a great opportunity for growth.
Yep.
That's yours.
Yay.
Are you ready?
Yeah, you gonna sing?
They'll be performing Impossible. Since we double cast it, they're singing it together.
Oh, good.
All 4 of them at once.
Okay.
Are you really my fairy godmother? But of course, my child. Actually, I'm everyone's fairy godmother but you. You are the only one who has ever given me charity, generosity, and kindness. And now I must make all the dreams we joked about come true. But that's improbable, implausible, impossible for a plain yellow pumpkin to become a golden carriage. Impossible for a plain country bumpkin and the prince to join in marriage. And 4 white mice will never be 4 white horses. Such full and fiddle-dee-dee, of course
We had a little
is.
technical snap.
They're doing great.
Hey, they're going out
They're
to
doing
shout.
great.
Sorry.
Notice anything. It sounded so great.
This really happens.
Impossible for a plain yellow pumpkin to impossible.
Critical thinking.
Yes.
Resiliency
Okay.
at its
Right.
finest.
Yes.
Here we go, we got
Okay.
this. Take 3.
could make it all happen. Never I couldn't. You're right. It's all so impossible. For a plain yellow pumpkin to become a golden carrot, impossible. And a plain country bumpkin and a prince to join in marriage, and 4 white mice will never be 4 white horses. Such folderol and fiddly-dee, of course, is impossible. But the world is full of zanies and fools who don't believe in sensible rules and won't believe what sensible people say. And because these daft and dewy ideals keep building up impossible hopes, impossible things are happening every day.
You get to see why we have the greatest jobs in the world.
Yeah.
It's just that, I mean, he's hiding back there because he's tearing up and I'm getting emotional.
True.
But when we get to see the work these guys put in and obviously the work the kids put in, it's amazing. Just amazing.
Yep.
Thank you
Yes,
for
thank
joining
you very
us.
much.
And
Loved
I'm
it.
glad you got to reveal.
Look how pretty she was.
Yes.
beautiful.
I was wondering what was that going to be. Yeah.
I didn't come in there looking like that.
Yeah.
I designed all of my own costumes for the show, so I was in charge of everything, and so this was one of the things that I altered and created, and I made my own
Nice.
transformations. Yeah, very nice.
Yes.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Well, thank you.
As you can see, we had, between cast, crew, and pit, about 100 students involved.
Wow. That's great. Did you have a musical last year?
Yeah, it's musical last year. It was not this big.
No.
Well, that's pretty impressive for year number 2. Congratulations.
Yeah.
It's a community. People saw it, and they just had to be part of it.
Yeah, we had a lot of people in circle on Monday say, I saw Seussical and I knew I wanted to be with you guys. It was really nice.
And that's what's great about the shows that they choose. We talked a little bit about this earlier. Because they're community friendly, we're able to reach out to elementary schools,
Yeah.
middle schools, and we're recruiting for years to come, so
Right.
our program can just keep growing.
Yep. Great.
Yes, we appreciate those appropriate shows.
Yeah.
Much prefer them over things that are a little edgy.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much. We
Very
appreciate
nice.
you
Very
very
much.
much.
That
That
was
was wonderful.
Poor Vince has to
Yeah,
follow
poor
that.
Mr. DiTilio has to follow that.
I know.
So, what music will he be performing to today?
Yeah.
He's going to sing, oh. You are up. Please come up here.
But it's going to be just as exciting, isn't it?
Probably not, but actually that was a really good segue into what I'm going to talk about, so that makes it really, really easy. So it's great to see everyone. My name is Vince DiTilio. I'm the supervisor of professional learning. I've been in the district, this is my 7th year, and I think not only when I come to board meetings, but I'm out in buildings, like we see examples of this every day in so many shapes and forms of just our kids doing amazing things. And I think I like to think about those as there's lots of trees in our forest of our district, and there's lots of amazing trees, and some that sometimes we learn about new ones every day when we're out in the building. But what I'm going to talk to you about tonight is sort of a bigger picture project that we've been working on, and this is sort of the forest that sort of all those trees make up. And really, I'm excited to share it because I think it's really going to guide our work, especially in the curriculum department in terms of our teacher learning for the next sort of years to come. So the project is called Portrait of a Learner, and I'm going to kind of walk you through the project tonight and then see if you have some questions. We've been working on this for about 2 years now, and this conversation stemmed from an ongoing conversation that we have as an academics team about what does it mean to meet our mission statement. And I think we all agree, we all get behind the mission statement, we know how important it is to facilitate maximum learning for every student, but we also know that that means a lot more than academics. Obviously, these folks who are standing up here today prove that we know what the community expects in terms of our academic performance. That's very clear, and we know how that's measured. But the question is, what else? You know, what else does the community want from us? Our students spend a lot of time at school. These folks spent even more time at school. And what do they expect of us in terms of what kind of character we want to develop, what kind of dispositions our kids want to have? So eventually we landed on this question as a question we were asking ourselves: what do we want our students to be like as adults? And we liked that question. We thought it was the right question because it allowed for a variety of responses, a variety of ways to take that. It doesn't particularly mean what do you need to get into college. It doesn't particularly mean what do you need to go to med school or be a doctor. It's a little bit more general, but we really liked that about it, that it had a lot of access points to it, and we wanted to get a variety of responses from folks. So our first step that we did was we reached out to parents in the community, and this was fall of 2018. We used a program called Thought Exchange that we've used before. It's a crowdsourcing platform, essentially an idea sourcing platform. And we had over 1,000 responses from community members, parents in the district, folks, even some folks who didn't have kids, I think, in the district anymore. And of those 1,000 responses, there were 20,000 sort of ratings of those responses. So the way Thought Exchange works is you rate the responses, which one you like the most, and then Thought Exchange is able to provide us back a report of the most popular ideas. So we took those posts and those ratings, and we brought them back to our team and the Continuous Improvement Committee and started to sort of ask what these results meant and try to bring some clarity to what our community was asking of us and what they valued. We took those initial ideas. The next step, we actually went to students, and I'm glad we went to students next because they had some really interesting thoughts about what their parents and community members were saying. And our high school principals sat down with our principal advisory committees in each building and asked students, hey, can you get behind these things? Is this what you believe? Is this what you want? And their general take on it was pretty interesting. They thought that the document was too self-centered. They thought that it was too individualistic, being about my success. They wanted to speak more to them making other folks better, making their classmates better, groups better. And I thought that was really, it's a good moment for us to go, okay, they get it, right? They know what's going on here. So the next step for us, and this is kind of where we're at now, and this is why I'm really excited to talk tonight, is that we're getting ready to sort of roll this project out to teachers. It's still sort of a draft status, but by the end of this school year at our annual think tank, we're going to roll out the document to the folks who are there. And then hopefully next year at convocation, this is going to be part of Mr. Rafe's sort of speaking points to the district. We hope that's how things work out. So this is sort of a preview, and here we go. So what we heard from our community. Number one, really not number one that it's most important, it just sits first on the document, but that the idea of being purposeful. And students know what matters to them, they are aware of what motivates them, and have a clear sense of who they are. Their actions are intentional. Okay, these are dispositions, these are character traits that develop over time. So this is a process that we would look at from K-12 of building the disposition of being purposeful. This doesn't mean, from the feedback we got, they always want them to know what they want to do, like what you want to do in college or what profession you want to have. It's more about just making sure that there's intention behind the action. And I like that. I think that's important whether you're on the basketball court or in a theater production or in a math class. Being purposeful is an important characteristic. The second characteristic we heard, and again, the young people that were up here talking about resiliency, to be resilient. This was one of the loudest and most clear points we got from the community in terms of what they valued, the ability to bounce back from adversity. They create meaningful goals and understand that failure is part of the process. They see challenges as opportunities for growth. There's a lot in there. That's a big ask, but I think that we see our teachers working on that with our students, but I think we could build a more succinct way to do that K-12, making sure we're working on that every year. We're not waiting till high school to start setting goals. We're not waiting, to start to talk about the importance of failure and the fact that it's going to happen to all of us. So that one was very clear. The third point of the portrait of a learner was to be curious, and this kind of embodies that whole critical thinking, problem-solving aspect of things. Students seek solutions to problems. They ask questions. They utilize critical and creative thinking to tackle challenging tasks. They are lifelong learners. This one is one that I think is obviously key to academics, but also key to anything you're pursuing in life. That ability to ask questions, I shared with the Business Advisory Council the other morning that there's a lot of research about questions and kids, and how if you have young people, my kids are sitting out there, they'll ask me 40, 50 questions on the way home. Yet by the time we get to middle school, questioning declines drastically. And then all of these business owners are sitting around, they're asking questions all the time. They're trying to come up with new ways to ask questions about things that they've already experienced. So this is a really important one. And the last one's kind of like the duh one for us, and we were really happy that people felt strongly about kindness and that students bring out the best in others. That kind of comes from that language of the students that told us in those advisory meetings. They respect different points of view and demonstrate empathy. So really within that kindness is empathy, equity, different perspectives. It kind of really sums up and connects back to a lot of our diversity and equity work also. So those are the 4 that really stuck out from that process. And obviously, this is a complex thing to do in a school, to try to build students like this. But just because it's difficult, and just because it's also difficult to measure, doesn't mean it's not worth focusing on. And I think that with this project, what we really want to do is, one, hear the community and make sure we know what they value is clear, but then also really give our teachers the space to do this kind of work with kids. I think sometimes they feel those pressures of so much pressure to, the academic success, which is important. Sometimes they need to be empowered to do some more things like this with our kids. And I think that that's what's really exciting about this project. Just a couple other bullet points of things that I think really sum up the Portrait of a Learner. So we're kind of already making decisions on some things using this document, kind of bouncing new ideas off of that. So if you're familiar with our Global Scholars Program, this checks all those boxes with those kids who are taking part in that. Second Step and Sanford Harmony are 2 elementary sort of social emotional learning programs we're working on. And both of those we definitely selected because they sort of aligned with those character traits that we saw in the Portrait of a Learner. Character Lab is a project we're doing with 8th graders in our middle school, where we are actually part of some larger academic research around social emotional learning and character development. And we're also using some materials and tools from them, which is a pretty cool opportunity to be part of that. We just told the Business Advisory Council the other morning about our new entrepreneurship class that we're beginning at all 4 high schools. This is a revamp of a current course to really give our students a opportunity to develop their own business, legitimately develop a business plan. That's a really exciting project. Bill Warfield and Rachel Dobney are kind of leading that from our department. And then there's also a new, not a set, but a new science elective in terms of forensics going to be offered next year at our 4 high schools. And again, these kinds of decisions become a lot easier for us to make when we have something guiding that. And that's really how we feel about the Portrait of a Learner. It's a translation of the mission statement. It's a more in-depth look at the mission statement and what it would really look like for us to meet that, because we know it's not just academics. And how can we kind of continue that work there? So these are my last 4 points, just to kind of let you know what we're planning on doing with this document moving forward, and would love feedback on this. One is to spark continued dialogue with community and other stakeholders, that this document could help us have a conversation, an ongoing conversation about what the community values and how we can meet those values and deliver on that promise. The second one is to guide future planning and decision making. I think from a curriculum, professional development standpoint, resources, I think it helps us to have something like this to bounce our ideas off of versus just the mission statement, which can be a little vague sometimes for us to do that. And then 3, to expand the document by creating detailed criteria. When teachers start to look at this, the vision is to, behind that, to really define those 4 characteristics within a discipline. So what does a resilient math student do on a day-to-day basis? What does a resilient writer do? Resilient reader? Really kind of space those out in a more practical, detailed way for teachers. And then the last part, which is I think really exciting, is to apply the disposition to other areas of our organization. So what that means is that start to consider, what does it look like to be a resilient bus driver in our district? What does it look like to be a purposeful food service worker, a purposeful curriculum supervisor? Like really ask ourselves the same questions, and I had a couple conversations with both Mark and Randy and Todd about that, and we think we'd like to some point try to approach it that way also. So again, I really think that the big takeaway here is that our mission is met. We feel like our mission is met when we create purposeful, resilient, curious, and kind kids. That will take care of the academics too, also. So thank you. I appreciate your time, and if you have any questions or comments, I'd love to hear some feedback.
So I just wanted to emphasize the importance of the initiative that you've taken. When we go to the Ohio School Boards Association presentation every year, there's a portrait of a graduate. And they try to emphasize to board members how important it is to take the community stakeholders into consideration and, you know, have that part of your strategic plan. So thank you, because that is exactly what you are doing, and I'm excited to see where this goes.
You want to expand on why you purposely?
Yes. Yeah, the graduate versus learner. Is that what you're?
Well, if you're not going to let me finish
Well,
the question,
Oh,
you
I'm
just
sorry.
figure it out. Maybe you're right.
Would you like to expand on? Sorry.
You were right. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
No, because I don't know the answer.
Because I was going to ask that.
The difference between
Yes, and the reason, you know, I think eventually it came down to is that it's difficult for a kindergarten teacher to really wrap their head around something that's
The
that far off. And
graduates,
we've honestly tried that before with college and career readiness, 21st century skills. It's just, you go down into those classrooms, they're doing this amazing work, but it's hard to see that connection. So we really feel like this is happening the whole time you're here. It's really important. And also it goes beyond graduating, like being a learner, and it also allows it to apply to myself as a curriculum
It
supervisor.
needs to
I
happen
want to be
before graduation, too.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think it helped us kind of expand the conversation and make it a little bit more accessible to people.
We appreciate that.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
for the internship class, how's it going to kind of,
Entrepreneurship.
yeah, did I say internship?
You did.
I was promoting a new governor's thing that he's doing today. But the entrepreneurship piece, how does that going to interweave into the DECA program or the business programs that we have at the schools? Like, is it going to be
Yeah, I think
separate?
I think it weaves right into that. That I think a lot of kids who are in.
Yeah, because a lot of them do kind of projects.
Yeah, this is already it's an existing class we have. I can't remember the name of it. Applied economics that.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
that-
so
yeah,
this is a
now they're doing-
revamp of that
Okay.
into a more relevant, modern, engaging kind of context. And the great part is all 4 of those people who do DECA are on board with it too.
Okay, good.
And our teachers were basically asking us to change something about the curriculum, so it was an easy win.
I just want to reemphasize the point you made about surveying the community, asking the community for what they want to see of our students in our highly competitive culture, you know, where it's sometimes winner take all, whether it be athletics or performing arts, or every bit as cutthroat as athletics or academics. It's a race to be the valedictorian, and trying to help slow some of these things down and talk about being and being kind and resilient. Our kids don't always do well with resiliency because so many adults have such high expectations for them in so many ways, shapes, and form. And, you know, so it's really important. This is what our community has asked or has told us they want. So, you know, when we start putting it into action, we're going to have to continually remind the community this really is. And it's okay for our kids to be kind to each other. We're not trying to trample capitalism, and but you know, that will come up. But the kids do. We can learn so much for them. So I really appreciate you having their voice in that, and that really is really important in all the curriculum work they do to get that student voice. And we should listen to them more.
Agreed. The students that participated, was it just those that participate in the principal's advisory, or was it all students?
No, it was just the principal advisory at that time, and this is, I still think, like, once it even gets set, the document, I think we want to have some sort of yearly, like, you know, dig back into the conversation, so I'd love to involve more kids. That was a nice, it was an already set up kind of event, and it gave them, they had a relationship with the kids, so the kids were pretty honest in their
I'm
feedback,
sure they
which
were
is great.
forthcoming because
Yeah.
they had that comfort
Yeah.
level.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Can't wait to see it.
All right. We'll show it when
This
it
time
comes
next
out.
year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Good meeting you.
Thanks, Vince.
Okay, well, I'll keep my report brief.
Thank you.
We had the opportunity to see two presentations that really showcase exactly what our community and stakeholders want for their students, and that is a well-rounded student. The opportunities within the arts, accompanied with community outreach and philanthropy, are shining examples of how Olentangy is creating avenues for students while broadening their perspectives. And Mr. DeTilios, he shared with us what the expectations of our community are for Olentangy students. We asked, they spoke. I'm very happy to hear that they're taking that information and using it wisely, and it will direct the path that takes us forward, our professional development, curriculum decisions, and the opportunities that are available to our students. Also this morning, Mark, Julie, and I were in attendance of a breakfast with the members of leadership in Delaware County. That group was very familiar between the relationship of the quality of a school district and the economic health of the community. It was also noted that crime rates are directly correlated with school districts. And also, they made it very clear that our community has set fire and safety at the highest priority. So we all hope that the community feels as strongly and that schools are equally, if not more important to our community. We have managed our facilities and our budget in an outstanding manner. Now the community has that opportunity to use their voice and confirm if the education we offer is worth the cost, and if we are going to continue moving in the same direction for our students. I did hear a few comments that in the past few weeks that we need to run, Olentangy School District more like a business. And I would say we try to run as fiscally efficient as possible, and that's where we do mimic how a business runs. But I would ask this: what business do you know that only has two streams of revenue and no ability to generate a new product and increase that revenue? That is where we differ from businesses. We have two sources, that would be taxes and state funding. And unfortunately, we know until 2021 and the next biennium budget comes around, that's not going to change. So it's up to us. So again, I will reiterate that if you would like more information about the March 17th ballot issue, please visit olentangyschools.org, olentangyforkids.org, or Julie Wagner-Fiesel's school board Facebook page. She does an outstanding job of addressing very, very specific questions. That's all I have for this evening, so let's move on to the superintendent's report.
Good evening to everyone. Thank you for coming out and staying. Lone survivor. Everyone who came out. No, it's great. We love having people here. And Mr. Spinner, thank you for making it possible for the kids to come here. We're just trying to continue to update the community. Emily and I are still on the coffee chat trail and events everywhere, every night, a couple on Sundays, and actually filling up a couple Saturdays here coming up. Nobody's volunteered for a Friday night. So I think the end of the work week is having us over for coffee chats just a little too much.
They don't want to see our shining faces on
Friday.
Friday.
To handle. We got a request from the student news organization at Orange High School, the JUICE. Our broadcast journalism kids came over and did interviews or made videos for us, and we will be sharing those with the community again, trying to provide as much information as possible so people can make an informed decision. We did an interview with WOSU last week. That'll be airing March 2nd or 9th. I don't know. Yeah, and then This Week News and the Dispatch. So a lot of media requests, and happy to oblige with those. I'm going to highlight a couple athletic achievements that happened here recently. Gosh, this is finally the last Levering girl to graduate from Liberty High School. There's been four. At least 3 or 4.
Yeah,
I mean,
3 that I've gone through,
yeah.
yes.
Kelly Levering, little Kelly.
Little Kelly.
actually, Coach Fiesel used to call her Sanford.
Yeah,
because
Fred
she picked
Sanford.
up trash underneath the stands. At
And she
weekend
remembers
events.
that. I just
Yeah,
talked to her.
He still calls her. Made
Mhm.
8 3-pointers, a school record the other at their first tournament game. Olivia Lynch from Liberty High School was the state Division I champion diver, which is a incredible accomplishment. We had 2 wrestlers. Taryn Martin from Orange High School was the 137-pound weight class state champion, and Berlin High School Maya Crum was the state runner-up in her weight class. Orange High School finished 2nd overall in the inaugural state wrestling tournament. So really proud of those young ladies for stepping up and establishing those programs. It's really, that's going to be one of those things, again, like everything in Olentangy, the minute we started, it grows like crazy. So we're going to have a lot of girls taking part in that. And then OHS swimmers Martina Peroni and Cameron Kurger both had state runner-up honors in last week's state championship. So congratulations to all of those outstanding student athletes. Mrs. McMurray and the curriculum team have launched our program again for this summer, the Summer Enrichment Experience, open to grades 1 to 12, and it's taking place in June at, all throughout the district. There's a lot, just incredible opportunities for summer enrichment. So thank you to the curriculum team for putting that together. What's your total? What do you usually get for registration? No, how many kids?
Last year we had 750.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah,
gosh.
and only like 500 of those were unique students, so a lot of the kids just take their one class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's growing leaps and bounds.
Wow.
And just want to highlight one action item. Jane Edwards has been with
There's
us
Jane.
for 30 years as a
Yes.
nurse. She's one of our first nurses in the district.
Yes.
She's been with us for a long, long, long time. All our nurses travel throughout the district. But she's just, you know, I do think our health program that provided by our nurses, what they do on a daily basis, we have a lot of students that have serious medical needs that they monitor and take care of and do all the screenings. And our nurses work incredibly hard. And Jane has been a shining star for years and years and years and cared for countless, countless kids. Krista wasn't able to be here tonight, but she's deeply indebted to Jane because she was teaching at Arrowhead and her was pregnant with her 2nd child and her water broke, and Nurse Jane took care of her. So, sorry, Krista, if you. She's not listening. She's yeah, okay. Check. And then there's our important dates. As I always, as we, you know, once we start seeing spring break and end of 3rd quarter and all those things on the calendar, it knows we're winding down close to the next, probably next board meeting we'll have on their senior awards nights and graduations. So it's just, it is crazy.
You're,
and so.
you're missing something major.
What? Your birthday? Randy's birthday?
No, it's February 29th,
Oh, the pep rally.
all-school pep rally.
That's not a board. It's gonna be epic.
It's
Mr.
gonna
Spinner-
be, it's a booster. It's
Mr.
a booster
Spinner is
event.
predicting 4,000 people.
Mhm.
He, you know,
a
unlike, you
booster.
know, I don't get a bonus at the levy passes, you don't get a bonus
Yeah.
at the pep rally, so. You know, and I'm gonna just reiterate what Mrs. Patrick, just because I wanna make sure everybody heard it loud and clear. It was really interesting to be with this group of community leaders, and we had township officials from Orange Township and City of Powell and
Delaware County.
Delaware County. You know, again, I think a really good cross-sampling of communities, like community leaders. And one of them made the point about, and again, I'm not trying to make a comment on anybody's value statements, but there was a big issue in the community regarding fire safety in the community and the loss of fire safety. And I think the comment made during that time was, we are willing to pay whatever it takes to provide the highest quality safety services for our community. And I know our levy ask is always a bigger number than any other ask out there, and that is, you know, does cause people to question. But I'm always surprised that we don't feel that same way about our schools. Because the quality of education we provide is a direct correlation to the quality of life in the community. The quality of our home values. And Gary Vest, former chief of police of Powell, is the one who told me the stat. He's got, I need to get the information from him, but there is startlingly strong correlation between the quality of a school district, the quality of the community, and the crime rate. So you might be able to save some money on police.
Imagine.
By having better schools. You know, we say all the time, the state spends money on three things: education, medication, and incarceration. If they spend more money on the front end, they'll probably spend less money on the back end of both of the other two. So with that, take any questions. Thank you.
Mrs. Hatfield, your treasurer's report, please.
Yes, please. Good evening. I just wanted to reiterate a little bit of the conversation that Mark had about the coffee chats. You know, it's really interesting and worthwhile to get out there and talk to our community members, to meet some of our community members that we don't get to see on a regular basis, and really have poignant conversations about our state funding, the lack thereof, and how we are a locally funded district. I think that folks are starting to understand what that means and the impact of that as we walk through and prepare for levy cycles. So they're not happy with the situation, but I think understanding by the end of the conversation. So it's really meaningful work that we're doing, and proud to be a part of it. In terms of other things that are going on in the Treasurer's Department, we are underway on our budgeting process for next fiscal year. We have not changed the student amount that we're allocating to the buildings. So they have, by grade level, a dollar amount that we allocate by student. That has not been increased, but they have that rate to have the supplies and materials they need in the school buildings for their students.
Can I, and how long has it been since you've increased that?
2013, it's been the same rate since 2013.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. And then as we look at our departments, they are developing their budgets based on the projects and the new things that might be coming up for the students, for programming needs and things like that. And so we review those not only just by account totals, past spending history, but also by what may be coming in terms of projects to make sure that we can stay on point with our strategic plan. So that review process will start within the next couple of days. We will go through those budget details with our Finance and Audit Committee subcommittee. There's a handful of folks that come in and help us walk through those details, make sure that they look to be on point. And then we will take that information and roll it up into the 5-year forecast and review that large document with the Finance and Audit Committee and then with the Board of Education. So that process is underway, and we'll have more updates as we move forward. We will be planning for a fiscal software conversion for our department, and I just wanted to make sure that we let the community know that when they see the fiscal software being brought forward, it is important for us to switch. As of December in 2022, our current fiscal software will no longer be supported. So we really have to make sure we're making a specific and strategic choice. And the product that we are looking to replace it with is eFinance Plus. It is supported by our IT, or Meta Solutions, our IT support. It works with our student information systems. It will also integrate with a lot of our HR systems. And so we think it's a good fit to help carry us into the future and have a system that's more integrated and help us with automating our workflow processing. And then we will be planning to go with an independent public accounting firm for our next fiscal year audit. We asked Auditor Faber to go out, is usually the term that you hear in the treasurer's world. But basically why we do that is to make sure that we can get the most bang for our buck. We know that we are very low risk to use an independent firm for our audit because of our successful Auditor's Award with Distinction over the last 7 years. So what it will allow us to do is to use less time from our staff to be involved with the audit and therefore helping us cut costs. So we will be doing that RFP process in the next month or so. It will be led by the Auditor State's Office, and we will let you know when we have that solidified for the next couple of years. With that, we have a few things on the agenda for approval. We have January board financials. We have been receiving advances on the first half of our real estate taxes from the Delaware County Auditor. Right now, they are coming in higher in January than we had anticipated. We're not really sure if that's all just timing or if we're actually going to have larger collections at this point. Last year, we settled out in mid-March. This year, our advances have stopped at this point in the month of February, and we assume that final collection will be within the next week or two. So I think some of it's just timing and getting those getting a bigger portion of those advances earlier than we did last year. But we'll be able to report on that as soon as that's finalized. And we do know that we have savings that are going to be coming from the enrollment changes that we've seen in the high deductible health care plan. About $600,000 to the good, which is great. That high deductible health care plan transition was planned to be integrated over the next 3 years. We know we saw a large switch over year 1. This is year 2 of making the adjustments to the PPO plan a little more expensive for staff, in hopes that they would help us move to the high deductible plan enrollment and grow that, and they've done that again during this open enrollment. So we will take those changes and estimates and put those into the 5-year forecast update, as well as some analysis on where we think market trends will be in the next coming years. Our amended appropriations, again, are as normal, just making sure that we have our budget approvals in compliance with accounting standards and Ohio Revised Code, as well as our board meeting minutes my notes are wrong, I put September. For the January 23rd and the January 9th organizational and business meetings. I apologize for that typing error. And then for donations, we have several donations we would like to recognize from Tyler Run Elementary PTO, Super Kick Classic Eagle Soccer Club, Olentangy Zoological Park Association, and Cole Group Consulting. They have donated to Tyler Run Elementary, Olentangy Special Olympics, Olentangy High School Environmental Club, and the One Community Equity and Inclusion Conference in order. So we are very grateful for all of those donations, and of course all of the donations our communities help us with in terms of their time and talents. So with that, I will take any questions you might have.
Yep, I have some questions.
Okay.
Regarding the audit and you going out to find someone else to do it, can you tell them who's doing it now?
So right now we are being audited by the state auditor and his staff. Of course, Auditor Faber doesn't actually come on site.
Right.
But we have a team of 4 or 5 individuals that come out, which includes an audit manager who oversees their staff. And typically they're starting the audit with an August timeframe, wrapping up the cash audit around November, and then finishing in December with the audit of our CAFR statements. So they're with us quite a bit of time. So.
And that's not a free service.
No, it's not a free service. We do have to pay a fee for that.
Yeah, I want people to understand that just because it's through the auditor of the state, you're still paying for that time.
Correct. We are currently, we just looked it up, we have paid about $50,000 for that service for fiscal year 19. So we were hoping that will curb, probably $10,000 to $20,000. It's not going to be a significant change in year 1 because of the RFP process. We have to pay for that. But the outgoing years, it should be lower as well. So we're looking forward to kind of moving that forward in a positive way for us.
And then we were talking about the tax collections and the advances that are coming in sooner, but that doesn't mean there's more money than was anticipated.
Correct.
It's just getting to us sooner. I don't want people to think, oh, there's more money there.
No, and asking for tax advance is normal practice. When we have our organizational meeting, the board grants the treasurer authority to request tax advance payments from the Delaware County Auditor. And the idea behind that being that, money that we have, we can invest and use that and gain those interest earnings rather than letting it sit in the county auditor's office and have them have use of that cash flow. So no, to your point, it's not an increase or a loan on any real estate taxes that we budget for or anticipate. It's merely just the timing of getting it in hand so that we can take advantage of that cash investment.
And then that 600,000 in savings from the insurance program, is that for people who have switched over, or is that from new hires who automatically went to the high deductible plan? And so in our projections, maybe we had projected them in the PPO.
And it's probably a little bit of both, but most of that savings is coming from the open enrollment. We do see the change or some savings coming through at the beginning of the fiscal year because most of our new hires will be enrolled, and you'll see that reflected in August and September. But the biggest adjustment that we've seen so far has been through open enrollment.
Good.
So folks that are currently employed and moving to take advantage of that.
Yeah. And then when is your next audit and finance and audit committee meeting?
So our next Finance and Audit Committee meeting, we have a review of the budgets on March 30th. That will be in the morning. And then I believe it's April 2nd, I think, is the Finance and Audit Committee meeting. That is the full committee meeting to review. Let me double check that date for you while we're looking. Certainly not the 2nd, since that's a Saturday. Monday, Tuesday, April 7th, 6 o'clock in the Orange Conference Room. So that is open to the public. I believe Mr. Rafe's assistant, Mrs. Cox, has been posting all of our meetings and making sure that they're out there and on the website and available to the community to review. So we're open to having folks come join us, but we will go through that whole five-year forecast and budget scenario at that time.
And since we're going to be successful on March 17th, would that be reflected in this 5-year forecast that you'll be discussing then on the 2nd?
Yes.
Or the 7th, I guess?
Yes. Once we are successful, we can go ahead and reflect that millage, that estimated collection within the forecast to show how it'll flow through the document.
Okay.
Yes.
That's all my questions.
Thank you. Any others?
That is covered.
I don't have any.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Hatfield, do we have any public participation this evening?
No, we do not.
Then I will, would you please present your treasurer action items?
Yes, please. I would like to present treasurer action items A through D for approval, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, please call the roll.
Mrs. Wagner-Fiesel,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Dr. Weiss,
Yes.
and Mrs. Patrick.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Rafe, would you please present your superintendent action items?
Yes, ma'am. I present superintendent action items A through G for approval.
May I have a first? A motion?
So moved.
A second?
I'll second.
Please call the roll. Any discussion? Okay, please call the roll.
Dr. Weiss,
Yes.
Mrs. Wagner-Fiesel,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
and Mrs. Patrick.
Yes.
Thank you.
With that, we will adjourn and we will be back. I'll take a motion. And before I do that, we will be back here on Thursday, March 11th. Same place, same time.
March 11th? 12.
Thank you. I wrote it down today as the 11th. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, how about we give Mrs. Fiesel the first and Dr. Wise the second?
Okay. Got it. So Mrs. Wagner-Fiesel,
Yes.
Dr. Weiss,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
and Mrs. Patrick.
Yes.
Thank you.
We are adjourned.